welcome to the Joy Gym, where every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we practice different mental exercises to help us cultivate a greater sense of joy in our lives. Yes, you heard me correctly. We do mental exercises in this room. But you can think of it just like a traditional gym, just like how lost my words. Just like how in a traditional gym you would do physical exercises to change your body, we here do mental exercises. We do, but the concepts are almost exactly the same. Here we do a guided breathing exercise and a guided meditation, and it changes every day of the week. Today is Tuesday, Take a Breath Tuesday. So we are going to do something slightly different. 1 second. We are going to, instead focus a bit more on the guided breathing exercise portion, as it is Take a Breath Tuesday. We're also going to practice a guided breathing exercise we have not done in this room before. So you're all in for a treat today. Is there anything else to note before we begin? Just make sure that we do this room in 3 places. We do it in LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, and we do it on Clubhouse. So feel free to either follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on Clubhouse if you like content like this and want to see more of what we do, because we do this every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, yesterday, we began the week by talking about stress. We defined stress as adaptation energy, the energy that's required for us to adapt to a new situation. Today, I'd like for us to expand upon that thought process a bit. When we talked about adaptation energy, we also said that this energy can be used quicker, or the stress response can be more intense if it doesn't meet our expectations. Let's say we expect it to be a sunny day outside because we are jam packed with, or we have a party, we have a barbecue or a cookout to go to, right? But it rains. That is against our expectations. And if we were the host of that party, now we have to spend this adaptation energy trying to get it, or trying to find an inside venue. That can cause stress. We talked about, that's one of the things that we covered yesterday. Today, I'd like to expand on that a bit by talking through rest and how rest can be different from stress, and how we can use breathing exercises to help relieve our stress by bringing in more of a restful state in our body. So, there was a study done. I am forgetting the author, but it was one of the biggest studies in the world around rest. Um, and one of the things they found is that rest can have a huge variety of different practices and meanings for different people. For some people, actually sitting down and doing nothing is the most restful thing you can possibly do. For others, that would drive them crazy. That's one of the most stressful things that they can do. For some people, rest is like running a marathon or doing a very high intensity workout. I'm actually one of those people. But for other people, the act of doing physical exercise for rest is insane. And that's one of the very interesting parts about rest. It turns out from that study, one of the biggest studies on rest ever done, it was discovered that rest is whatever we define as restful. Our body innately knows what it wants and needs at any moment. And often when we can give our body what it wants and needs, we experience a state of rest. Just like how if you're tired, you give it sleep, you give your body sleep, and you experience rest from doing that. Also, if you've had a stressful day and you want to just watch your favorite show, you go and do that, that can bring about a state of rest. So when we mention how stress is adaptation energy that can be amplified when it goes against our expectations, that we can see that on one end of the spectrum as a large collection of this adaptation energy, this stress response. And rest is on the other end of the spectrum when we actually give our body what it needs. So when we get this rest, or like we said, stress is adaptation energy. As we are expending this adaptation energy, it pumps something through our system called cortisol. You can think of it like the stress hormone. The stress response was designed for quick energy bursts. You can kind of imagine it like football players. Like, you know how football players, they're giving everything they have, but for like 6, 7 seconds at a time. You don't see a football play lasting 2 minutes because that's not how the game is designed. That's not how their bodies are designed to function. So if football players were running a marathon, the system or everything that was built for them to be a great football player could actually begin to harm them in their ability to be a great marathon runner. It's a very similar concept here. The stress response in our body is created for quick bursts of energy and for us to be able to then get rid of that energy and go back to our default state, which is a happier, healthier state where we're not as well. I wouldn't say happier, healthier, but it's a state where we're not as aroused, right? So with rest or when we are experiencing stress, we have all this extra energy that's building up in the body. And if we don't find ways to release it, it builds and builds and builds and creates an internal imbalance. So with rest, what we can do is we can actually start to bring down some of this energy, start to bring our body to more of a balance and counteract some of that stress response. I see we have a comment. Hello, Sophia. It's good to see you. So, if you just joined, we are talking about the relationship between stress and rest. So, we had just mentioned that stress is like a buildup of energy because stress was built for a quick release of it. So, if we don't get a chance to release it or if we're constantly stressed, it's a buildup of energy that's not supposed to stay in the body too long. So, it can bring about an internal imbalance. With rest, we can kind of bring or release some of that stress, bring our body back to that default state so we're not always in that hyper aroused state. For those of us that stay, myself included, that deal with something like PTSD, where there's a consistent imbalance in the ability for us to regulate our emotions, you can live life almost as if you're in a constant low grade panic. There's a word with PTSD that we call like hypervigilance, like always being aware, always looking out for the next form of danger, because your body believes that the part of your brain that is saying that there's danger around, never fully shut off. And that can create stress because we have to adapt to this situation. We can never fully rest and have our body kind of calm down and center itself a bit. So we talked about stress, we talked about rest, but what does breathing have to do with this? So, for better or for worse, we have evolved so that our breathing and our emotions are deeply tied together. If you don't believe me, think about any time that you've been very angry. Most of us take like a big exhale, like "Argh," get that air out. Or if we've ever had extreme panic or fear, that hyperventilating, that breathing in and out very quickly, or often when most of us are stressed, we tend to breathe less from our stomach and diaphragm and more up in our chest. We tend to have more shallow breaths. All these are different examples of how our emotional state changed our breathing rate. And that's when it's happening on autopilot by itself. But the beauty here is that we can actually use that to our advantage. So just like how when we're in an aroused emotional state, we're breathing in different ways. If we breathe in different ways, we can bring about different emotional states. And that's how it ties into rest. For those of us who may be dealing with very stressful situations or having a more constant form of stress, like I know for myself, I struggle a lot with sleep because your body has to relax and rest to a certain degree that I still struggle with based on my disorder or my post traumatic stress disorder. So rest or breathing exercise is a great way to help bring the body down, settle the nervous system, have your body experience some of that rest. And the more that your body feels rested, the easier it is for your body to tell your brain that you're safe and have some of that stress response come down. So that's why we do these guided breathing exercises. In fact, guided breathing exercises for those of us who may be dealing with stress, anxiety, fear at a more constant or intense rate can be, in some situations, more effective than guided meditations. Because for some of us, guided meditations and mindfulness is not for everyone. Like we mentioned, how stress can also be triggered when our body is in that state of thinking that there's constant danger. If you think about it, if you were what is a good example here? Let's imagine that you were playing a game, right? Oh, okay, I got one for you. Let's say there was you were at a game show, and the first person who fell asleep lost. It's you versus one other person. The first person who fell asleep lost. The winner gets $1 million. Every time your body starts to relax, every time you start drifting off to sleep, you're gonna freak out and wake up again because you're like, "Whoa, I almost lost $1 million," right? When it comes to our stress response, when we're constantly feeling stress, that same thing happens because it's trying to protect ourselves. If you were falling asleep in that game show and you wake up really quickly, no matter how tired you are, you're trying to protect yourself from losing that $1 million, right? And in this situation, when if we are dealing with a constant state of stress, when our body starts to relax, sometimes our body jolts ourselves back up. Sometimes we actually start feeling more intense emotions of fear or of anger because our body's trying to protect ourselves. It's like our brain thinks there's danger everywhere, and if we think there's danger and you start relaxing, no, you can't relax, there's danger. You have to be alert and ready. That surge of energy that we said stress is to help with those quick bursts of quick situations, that energy comes back in your body to keep you awake and go ready. But remember, that same energy that's supposed to be for very quick bursts is now it's now staying at a constant state, and we can't even really rest to bring ourselves back down. That can be some of the trap that we find ourselves in as we deal with the stress response, especially if our stress response tends to get triggered when we try to relax. It can be a very difficult conundrum to find yourself in. So, with breathing exercises, we're going to find and practice another way to bring our body rest, which can be helpful either in general, if you find that you haven't gotten the most sleep, but you still want to give your body a form of rest, or if you're dealing with a stressful situation in and of itself. I've talked to a few of you all here who's mentioned how, like, when dealing with a difficult boss, has has triggered or activated certain emotions in you, having this breathing exercise can really help to bring things back down. It's a great way to center us and ground us. And that is all I will say in terms of the benefits of breathing. Let's actually jump into today's guided breathing exercise. Well, hello, everyone. And thank you so much for joining the Joy Gym today. Today, we're going to have a slightly different session in terms of our guided breathing exercise practice. We are going to have an extended guided breathing exercise and very little, if no, guided meditation today. We're also going to do a guided breathing exercise we haven't done in this room yet. So, we are all in for a treat. This one will be slightly different from how we normally practice it. Typically, we all breathe, or I offer a cadence, a beat for us to all breathe on count with. This time it's going to be slightly different. This time I'm simply going to give you the instructions and allow for a bit of time to pass for us to practice on our own because this breathing exercise doesn't have a particular count associated with it. So I actually do not remember or even know if this breathing exercise has a particular name. It's one that I learned from The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. With this breathing exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to practice expanding our lungs from our stomach up to get as much air into our body. We're going to hold, once we get to the maximum amount of air in, we're going to hold that for a second. And then we're going to slowly breathe all the air out of our lungs. And once we've done that, once all the air is out of our lungs, we're going to wait just a moment, one second before we breathe in again. This act of breathing in fully, taking our time to exhale, and then pausing for a minute once all the air out of our lungs, once all the air is out of our lungs, can be an incredibly effective way for us to help settle our nervous system and bring some of that rest we've been talking about in today's room. So I will do the first one with you all. And after that, feel free to do as many as you need at your own pace. I'll be doing them with you silently, and we'll be asking for us to come back together again in a few minutes. So let's start with doing one together. To begin, I'd like to invite you to find a comfortable position, preferably one with your spine erect but not rigid. You may close your eyes or lower your gaze if it is safe to do so, and if you feel safe doing so. Today's guided breathing exercise, we will breathe in from our nose, bring in as much air as we can, and then breathe out slowly through our mouth and pause once all the air is out of our lungs. Let's do the first one together by breathing in through the nose and slowly breathing out through the mouth. Once all the air is out of your lungs, take a quick pause. Don't breathe in, don't breathe out, and breathe in again. Feel free to practice this breathing exercise at your own pace for the next few minutes. The key with this particular deep breathing exercise is taking our time as we exhale. As we exhale, our body naturally relaxes. So, expanding the time in which we exhale can help elicit that relaxation response a little deeper and for a little longer. For some of us, the act of practicing this guided breathing exercise may trigger or activate certain uncomfortable emotions. If possible, I'd like to invite you to try and be with these emotions. Try to accept them and allow them to maintain the quality of weather, of arising, staying for a bit, and eventually passing away. However, these emotions may get to the point where they can feel overwhelming. If that's the case, I'd like to invite you to try and do this practice with your eyes open. If you still find yourself activated, maybe practice looking around the room, taking note of the neutral objects you see. And if you still find yourself activated after that, I'd like to invite you to let go of this practice. Guided breathing exercises are not for everyone, and there are many out there for us to try to find the one that may work best for you. For those of us who are not experiencing any difficult emotions as we practice, I'll give us 1 or 2 more minutes with this, and then we'll come back and close out. So we're breathing in as deeply as we can without hurting or straining ourselves. Breathing out through our mouth and taking our time. And once all the air is out of our lungs, taking a quick moment, a short pause where we don't breathe in or don't breathe out, excuse me, before we start the practice over. When you are ready, I'd like to invite you to let go of this practice. When you are ready, you may flutter your eyes open and look around the room to better ground yourself in the space that you are in. Like we mentioned earlier, we define stress as adaptation energy, the energy that it takes, that our body mobilizes for us to help us adapt to change, especially when we're scared of that change, when the change does not fit our expectations, or where the change goes against what it is we naturally want to do. We mentioned how our body is designed for us to mobilize this adaptation energy to originally fight off whatever threat was causing it. Like when we were in the middle of the food chain and was often the lunch of lions and tigers and bears, oh my, this stress response was very effective. It gave us the energy we needed to fight, fight, flight, run away, or freeze, play dead. This same biological response that helped us get here does not always help us live the healthiest and happiest life. And in the way that our society is run now, that response that was originally supposed to be activated and then released relatively quickly is now a ever present thing. This guided breathing exercise can help us counteract that by using almost like a life hack in our biology to help calm our body down and remind our body that we are safe. But this practice can be a bit difficult at times if we're so used to being in that go mode, if we're so used to being in fight or flight, the act of actually trying to relax and rest can be scary. So as we close out today, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for coming and say that you all did a great job. Just like in a, well, hello, KP. It's good to see you. Just like how in a actual gym, the act of going and doing your physical workouts doesn't always feel the best, and you don't always get the results right then and there. There could be times, especially after a really fun night out or a great vacation or cookout where we had lots of food, where it feels especially difficult to do these exercises. But just like with a regular gym, it's that consistency where we see the benefits and the effects. And just like how if you, let's say, are training for a marathon, this healthier body that helps you run the marathon, you also take with you for the rest of your life or for as long as you stay in shape. The more we can practice these tools, these mental exercises to help train and recondition our brain to have a more calm default state and peaceful default state, the more consistently we practice, the more we can take this new, more fit, more resilient brain with us wherever we go. So thank you all so much for joining. I love each and every one of you, and may you find ease. Ooh. Okay, and that concludes our guided breathing exercise for the day. Let's see, any other announcements, anything to note? Uh, there are a lot of things happening in the background that I cannot share with you all yet, but just know. Ah, hey Katya, it's good to see you. Oh, you ended up joining on YouTube. Okay, I saw KP. I wasn't sure exactly who that was, but it is good to see you as well. And thank you. I am enjoying giving these live streams. I always enjoy your love and support. Katya, just for y'all are aware, has been coming with us since I want to say December of 2020 when we first started doing these live streams on Clubhouse. So she is definitely an OG. She is the definition of a day one. But as we were saying, yeah, there's a lot of things happening in the back burner that I can't share with you all yet. But just know that the Joy Gym, it's looking like, is in store for some really amazing blessings coming through, and it will most likely shine through in how we create content with you all and some of the content that we do. I'm actually thinking, or not even thinking, in the works of planning different workshops now and taking what we've done as general meditations, Monday mindfulness, Tuesday taking a breath, Wednesday wellness, Thursday gratitude, Friday freestyle, and actually applying them to more. I don't want to say real life situations, as what we were doing wasn't real life before, but tailoring it to the things we go through every day, like stress. And that's what we tried yesterday. That's what we're doing today. So expect to see more of that. As always, the more I can learn about what you all are struggling with, the more I can learn about how this has helped you before, the better I can tailor what we're doing to help you even more. Y'all know I love feedback, so if you ever have anything to say on how I can make the session better, please let me know. The only other thing to note is a reminder that we do this every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. We do this on LinkedIn Live, we do this on YouTube Live, and we do this on Clubhouse. We tend to end the LinkedIn and YouTube sessions slightly early because of Clubhouse. It's just easier to talk to people. So we will have a slightly longer conversation there. Um, and we also open up the floor for questions there. You all can always ask questions and comment on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. I just love hearing people's voices because I just love fellowship. So, with I think that is everything. Yes. The last thing is, as always, please, 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 if you liked this, feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us or join Mindful Meditators on Clubhouse where we do this. And if you really, really like what you've seen, feel free to endorse my skills on LinkedIn and or write a recommendation. These things are super, super helpful as we grow the Joy Gym, and I would greatly appreciate them if you could knock them out, only if you feel so inclined by the value that we've given. So that's everything for today. Thank you all so, so much for coming. I love y'all, and may you find ease. Bye.